good 10 years have now passed since we were served the last main installment of the cult franchise with Silent Hill Downpour. However, there will be a gruesomely beautiful reunion with the Pyramid Head this year, as the Silent Hill 2 remake is nearing completion. While we are still waiting for an exact release date, Konami announced Silent Hill, the short message at the last State of Play show, a game that will showcase the franchise's new path. What exactly does this path look like? We answer this question in this test video. At the beginning, the Japanese development team lets you start the game in a first-person perspective, which is unusual for a Silent Hill. You slip into the digital skin of protagonist Anita, who sets off in search of her missing friend. The clues lead her to an abandoned building complex known simply as the Villa, which exerts a strong attraction on the local youths. Not least due to the fact that the villa has already lured one or two girls to their deaths or inexplicable situations have occurred within its walls. So far, so often seen before. The plot is set in the fictitious German town of Kettenstadt. Although visually everything looks more like Far Eastern climes, the villa in particular looks more like a classic Japanese building complex than a German building. You don't learn much more about the location in the game, and you won't find any other similarities. In this case, this is anything but tragic, as Anita only moves around inside the labyrinthine building complex anyway. Sporadic excursions outside are the exception here. The short message has a lot to offer, and the trigger warnings scattered throughout the game also have their reason. After all, it's about nothing less than bullying, domestic violence, and suicidal thoughts. This is definitely not for everyone and should therefore be taken with a grain of salt. On the other hand, you have to give Konami credit for dealing with these important topics and addressing them in a game. They do this surprisingly well in the short time available. The story about the love triangle between the three friends Anita, Amelie, and Maya may be predictable, but the narrative is very well organized. Interspersed with real cutscenes, it becomes increasingly clear what the teenagers' emotional states are like. The short conversations on the smartphone and the flashbacks also gradually piece together the historical puzzle, creating the classic twist of the tenny horror genre after around an hour and a half. It is important to bear in mind that Silent Hill, the short message, is available to players completely free of charge. This point is also absolutely fine. After all, you simply can't expect AAA content in a free and short game. It is therefore not surprising that the storyline is made up of discoverable diary entries, lost letters, or newspaper articles. Here too, Konami follows the classic horror game laws of the past. However, the free-to-play Silent Hill earns its minus points in a completely different area.
Maybe I can be like her. Here goes.
In principle, you've seen the gameplay dozens, heck, hundreds of times in other games. You move through tube-like corridors, collect a few scraps of history here and there, and flee from the great unknown evil. Yes, that's right. We also have to endure this in Silent Hill, the short message. A persistent pursuer. Only in this case, we don't even know what the goal of these chase passages is. In Resident Evil, Nemesis. You knew what the title wanted from you at all times, and the path to the goal was both clear and obvious. Not so with the nightmare that you experience in the skin of Anita. You are suddenly, almost unfairly, thrown into an area of narrow corridors with no real clues, and in addition to various locations, you also have to trigger certain key moments. If you are caught by your personal Silent Hill nemesis, you die, but are teleported back to the beginning of the passage and start all over again. True to the trial and error principle, you do manage to complete the passages at some point, but you lose interest in the game more and more. Even for a game that you can play for free on the PlayStation 5, we don't think this should have been the case. It's a real shame that Silent Hill, the short message, simply gets in its own way here. Although you can't expect a masterpiece in terms of atmosphere, it does look visually appealing, and the soundtrack is just right. Basically, we were able to empathize with the protagonist Anita and lose ourselves in the story. If it wasn't for the annoying gameplay, this aimless running through the corridors. The game would have benefited from fewer chases and more exploration of the building complex. Unfortunately, we are very disappointed with Silent Hill. The short message. Even though it's a free game, Konami has left a lot of potential untapped here. The creative minds could have put a little more effort into the possible reorientation of the franchise. The plot, however, is in tune with the times, really important and well told, both visually and acoustically. Only the lame strolling through the predetermined corridors of the building, coupled with the unfair and completely confusing chase passages, really spoil the fun of the game. Owners of a PlayStation 5 can of course form their own opinion free of charge, but shouldn't expect too much.
Stop! Please! What did I do to deserve